All right, so today we started lesson 36. So who can kind of give me a little summary or talk about what you saw in the lesson 36 video today? Peyton, what did you see in the lesson 36 video today?
So it was something like, I think it was multiplying two numbers by four partial something. I forget. I just
Yeah,
remember.
so it's still doing 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication. But yeah, in the video today, they were using four partial products. I was about to say partial quotients. We're not dividing. But yeah, we had four partial products. So if you saw the video, there was 4 boxes in the rectangle in the area model. So it is kind of similar to what we did on Monday with lesson 35, right? But this time we just had more boxes to find the area of. Alrighty, so we're on page 181 in your student workbook, so make sure you're on that page and you have a pencil. And I'm going to share my screen. All right, can everyone see my paper? Alrighty.
It's really blurry.
Yeah, I'm trying to focus it, but I think this is the best that I can do. I think that was Ilea, right? That was saying it looks a little blurry. Alrighty. So number 1A says, in each of the two models pictured below, we're gonna write the expressions to find the area, so our multiplication problems, and then we need to find the area of each of the 4 smaller rectangles. All right, so first we'll work on this one that has our grid paper. So we kind of need to label the sides first so that we know what our multiplication problems are gonna be for our area. So let's see, Maria, I want you to help me label.
Okay.
So how many squares do I have going down this side of this smaller rectangle?
4.
4. So I can put a 4 over here. And then what about down here, Maria? Down the other part of the left side of my rectangle.
10.
What'd you say, Maria?
I think 10.
10, right. And then now we need to do the top, Maria. So what about this top side up here?
10.
Yeah, 10 over here. And then how many do we have over here?
2.
2. So Maria, what's the total length of this side of the rectangle?
14.
And then what about on the top?
12.
12. So we have a 14 by 12 rectangle. And with this one, since it's on a grid, you can count up the boxes and you would have 14 boxes on this side and 12 boxes on this top side. Right, so now we need to write our expressions that go inside. So our multiplication problems to find the area of our 4 rectangles. So Tessa, we'll start at this one and we'll go like this and then we'll do the second round. So for this first rectangle, how am I going to find the area of that one?
You have to do count up all the boxes.
Right, or what multiplication problem would I do if I didn't want to count up all the boxes?
2 times 4.
Right, 2 times 4. But you're right. If I counted up all the boxes, that would also help me find the area. But if I didn't want to sit and count up all the boxes, I can just do a quick multiplication problem. Okay, so then what about for this rectangle, Tessa?
10 times 4.
Right, 10 times 4. And then for this one down here,
10 times 10.
for this smaller one over here,
Oh, no, 10 times 2.
right, 10 times 2. And then for this big one over here, Tessa,
10 times 10.
right, this one is 10 times 10. Thank you, Tessa. All right, so when we look at our other rectangle over here, it looks exactly the same, right? We have our 4 and our 10 and our 10 and our 2. So let's see, Izzy. So when I want to find the areas, all of these rectangles in here, let's start with this one.
2 times 4 equals 8.
Equals 8, you're right. And then for this one over here,
10 times 4 equals 40.
10 times 4 equals 40 because you can cross off the 0, add it to your answer, and then 1 times 4 is 4. Then for this rectangle down here, Izzy, the smaller one,
10 times 2 equals 20.
is 20, right? You can do the same thing, cross off the 0 and add it to your answer. And then for this big one down here, Izzy,
10 times 10 equals 100.
right? We can cross off our zeros and add them to our answer. And then 1 times 1 is 1. Right, so now we found the areas of all of our rectangles that are inside of our area model. All right, so then down here for letter B, they're showing us how our big multiplication problem that we're figuring out based off of our area model is 14 times 12. Like how Maria said, this long side of the rectangle is 14, and then this side on the top is 12. So to find the whole area of the big rectangle, we're doing 14 times 12. So down here, we're breaking it apart into 4 multiplication problems. So let's see, so Tanya, if I'm starting here, if I'm gonna start at my smallest rectangle first, I did 4 times what?
4 times 2.
Right. We wrote it as 2 times 4, but if we remember with multiplication, we can do it in any order. And then what about my next one, Tanya?
10.
Right, we did 4 times 10. And then down here, Tanya, for this rectangle,
10
did
times
10.
2.
10 times 2. And then for our last rectangle,
10 times 10.
right, we did 10 times 10. And then with Izzy, we figured out the answers to all of these multiplication problems. So we figured out 4 times 2 is 8. And we figured out 4 times 10 is 40. We figured out 10 times 2 is 20. And then 10 times 10 was 100. So Riley, I have all of these partial products. What do I need to do to all of them to find the total answer of 14 times 12?
You have to add them all up.
Right, we have to add them all up. That's what our number sentence says down here. So I'll write them over here on the side to make sure I line up everything in the right place. So Riley, when I add up the ones, what do I have in the ones place?
8.
And when I add up the tens,
6.
and then in my hundreds, I have
1.
1. So our final answer is 168.
Maria, are you okay? You have a question, honey?
I'm good.
Okay.
All right, so how do we feel? Does this kind of make sense? It's pretty similar to what we did in the other lesson, but now we have 4 rectangles to find the area of. All right, so let's move down to number 2. So in number 2, we have an area model, but we also have it written vertically. So we'll need to do both. All right, so Nina, we're doing 14 times 22. So if I want 14 to be on this side of my rectangle, how am I going to label it, Nina?
You put 10 on the bigger box, 10 beside the bigger box, and 4 on the smaller, next to the smaller box.
Right. And for the top side of my rectangle,
You put a 20 on the big box and a 2 above the smaller box.
right. Thank you, Nina. All right, so Sophia, I want you to help me figure out the multiplication expressions that we're going to write in each of our boxes to find the area. So just the multiplication problem. We don't have to solve them yet. We just want to figure out what we're multiplying. So for this box, what are we multiplying, Sophia?
4 times 2.
We're doing 4 times 2. For this one?
4 times 20.
20. For this one down here?
2 times 10. Wait, yeah.
And then for this one over here?
10 times 20.
Right. So now we know all of the multiplication problems we need to do to find the area of each of our rectangles. All right, so Colin, I want you to help me actually do my multiplying. So first we'll start with this one. So what's 4 times 2?
8.
8. So I'm gonna write that on the first line in my vertical problem. So we know 4 times 2 is 8. All right, next we'll move to 4 times 20, Colin.
80.
80, right? Cross off 0, add it to my answer, and 4 times 8, or 4 times 2 is 8.
Look what I did.
Oh! 10.
But did you see there was
Tyler, unmute yourself.
Yeah,
What are you doing?
my brother keeps on distracting me.
Okay, well, you need to be the bigger person and ignore him. If you're not going to pay attention in class, you're not getting anything out of being here, and all you're doing is distracting everyone else trying to learn. So you're gonna have to tell your brother to leave you alone so that you can pay attention. Thank you.
All right, Colin, we're on 2 times 10.
That would be 20.
All right, so I can write that down here. And then our last big one is 10 times 20, Colin.
200.
200, right? Because you can cross off your zeros, add them to your answer, And then 2 times 1 is 2. All right, so if you notice, look, I have the area of this rectangle on this line, the area of this one on this line. This one's over here, and this one's over here. And notice how I made sure to line up my ones place and my tens place and my hundreds place so that I don't get my numbers mixed up. Because Colin, what do I need to do with all of these numbers to find my final answer?
Add them all up.
Yeah, we need to add them all up. So it's helpful if you line them all up nicely so that you don't get confused when you're adding. So Colin, when I add up the ones place,
8.
8. And then when I add up the tens place,
You get 10. So put down the 0 and carry the 1.
and then in my hundreds place,
3.
3. Since 1 plus 2 is 3. So my final answer down here is 308. So does anyone have any questions on how the area model matches up when you write it vertically? Is anyone confused on any parts of that? Ilea, do you have a question?
I'm a little confused of like how you like multiply and like add. It's like kind of a little confusing because
So like we saw in the video and like we know, we want to find, we're trying to do 14 times 22. So if we label our rectangle, we have 14 on this side and 22 on this side. So to find that out, we would need to find the area of the whole rectangle. When we do it like this, we break up our big rectangle into 4 smaller pieces, right? So if we find the area of each of these smaller rectangles, which are these 4 numbers, then we need to add them all together to find out the whole rectangle. Does that kind of make some more sense?
yeah.
Okay.
Miss Gabine, on the next page, in class today, we ended up doing these practice problems using just the bow tie method. So we kind of get away from drawing the picture. So if you would want to maybe try 3 and 4 with that method, and then maybe let them try one of each for the last 2. That seemed to work well this morning.
All righty. So for number 3, we're doing 25 times 32. So I'm gonna write it like this. So for our bow tie method, Mrs. Chev likes to call it our multiplication wrestling. So 20 and 5 are a team.
Hold on one
and
second. Let's see if any of you guys this morning, I almost turned around and went right out the door. When we say wrestling to you in this situation, what does that mean to you? When we say wrestling, Maria?
Like multiplication.
Very good, multiplying. The kids, we were talking about it all day today, and I even taught them how to play the game. And then I said, when we say wrestling, what does it mean? This was after we did about 4 problems already. They were like, putting the number down, looking at the numbers. No, has nothing to do with real wrestling. It's just kind of like a fun way to remember that the 30 and the 2 are a team, 20 and the 5 are the team. And I know it gets crazy because you have all different numbers, but the main thing to remember is the 30 and the 2 never will wrestle or multiply by each other when you're writing all the work to the side. And the 20 and the 5 never wrestle each other. They only wrestle the people above them.
Right. So our wrestling is our multiplication. All right, so if we start at 5 for our wrestling, we're gonna go from 5 to 2. So let's see. So Julian, for wrestling 5 and 2, what multiplication problem am I going to write on the side?
5 times 2.
Right, we're doing 5 times 2. And what is 5 times 2, Julian?
10.
Oh, so I can write that underneath here. All right, so Nevaeh, next my 5 is going to wrestle with my 3. So what multiplication problem am I doing when my 5 wrestles with my 3?
5 times 3.
What value does my 3 have though? What place is it in?
5 times 30.
Right, because my 3 is in my tens place. So I can't just do 5 times 3. I need to do 5 times 30. Because 3 is in the tens place. And then what is 5 times 30, Nevaeh?
150.
Right. So you can cross off your 0 and add it to your answer. And then 5 times 3 is 15. All right, so now 5 is all done wrestling. He wrestled both the 2 and the 30. So what 2 numbers are going to wrestle next? Peyton?
2 and 2. 20 and 2,
Right.
actually.
Well, right, you're right. 20 and 2. So what's my multiplication problem I'm going to write on the side?
20 times 2.
Right. Because this 2 down here is in the tens place, so it's a 20. So 20 times 2, what is that, Peyton?
40.
40. So I can write that and make sure I line it up with my other numbers. And then what 2 numbers are we wrestling with next? Maria, what 2 numbers are we wrestling next?
The 30 and the 20.
Right, my 20 is going to wrestle with my 30. So what multiplication problem are we doing, Maria?
30 times 20.
Right, or we'll start with 20 times 30 since we're kind of starting from down here. So what is 20 times 30, Maria?
Is 600.
I can correct my then both to my answer, and then 2 times 3 is 6. All right, so Maria, I have all of my partial products here. What do I need to do to find my final answer, Maria?
You need to add up all of them.
Right. So when we add them up, when we add up the ones place,
0.
when we add up the tens place,
10. So you put the 0 down and you carry the 1.
right? I'm going to carry the 1 up here. And then when I add up the hundreds place,
700.
if I have 1 plus 1 plus 6,
Oh, 800.
8, right? So our final answer is 800. And then if we look up here, like Mrs. Shevchuk was saying on Tuesday, I think, we have a bow tie, and that's how we know we did all of our wrestling. Our 5 wrestled with our 2 and our 30, and then our 20 wrestled with 2 and 30. Since we have our bow tie, we know we're all done. Colin, do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to point out that there's more than one way to know that you're done. And it also looks like one of those sand timers that you use where the sand drips down, and it kind of looks like the Black Widow symbol.
It kind of does, you're right. It does kind of look like the sand timer, like laid down on its side. All right, so let's do the next one together. All righty. So I'm gonna move my paper. I'm gonna write it over here since I kind of wrote too big and couldn't fit everything. So I set up my problem. I'm gonna draw my work bar down the side. Right, so I have 42 times 35. So let's see. So Sarah, who's wrestling who first?
We're gonna make the 5 wrestle the 2.
Right. 5 is going to wrestle the 2. So what's my multiplication problem?
5 times 2.
Right. And what's 5 times 2?
10.
Nice job, Sarah. All right, so Finn, who's going to wrestle next?
The 5 and the 40.
Right, the 5 and the 40. So what's my multiplication problem?
5 times 40.
5 times 40. And then what is 5 times 40? I think you're muted, Finn.
200.
200, right? Because I can cross off 0. And then 5 times 4 is 20. So I have 200. All right, so Brian, who's going to wrestle next? No, I think you're muted. There you go. Now you're unmuted. Who's wrestling next, Brian? I couldn't hear you, bud.
We can't hear you.
Brian, I wonder, has it been a while since your computer's been off? I wonder if it needs logged off and back on. What, no battery? What are you showing us?
No, we still can't hear you.
Type it in the chat.
Or after we get finished with class today, try turning your computer off and on. You know, sometimes it just needs that reboot to fix it.
Yeah. All right, I see Peyton with his hand up. Are you going to help us, Peyton? Who's wrestling next?
30 and 2. And I also know what Brian was showing. He was showing up a little switch that'll unmute his microphone, trying to see if it will work then.
On this headset.
Mhm.
All right, so you said the 30 and the 2 are wrestling. Peyton, so what's
Yep.
the multiplication problem?
30 times 2.
Right. And what is that, Peyton?
6.
Let's see. All right, and then Trace, our last set of wrestling. Who's wrestling next?
200. 40 times 30.
Right, our 30 is going to wrestle with our 40. So we have 30 times 40. And then what is 30 times 40, Trace?
1,200.
Right, so we can cross off our zeros and add them in here. And then 3 times 4 is 12. All right, and then Trace, what do I need to do with all of my partial products?
You need to add them.
Right, I need to add them all up together. So when I add up the ones,
0,
and then when I add up the tens,
7,
when I add up the hundreds,
4,
and then what's in my thousands?
1,
So our final answer is
1,470.
right. Nice job. All right, so does everyone understand the bow tie method? Does anyone have any questions or anything they're confused on with the bow tie method or our math wrestling? All right, so now we'll move on to number 5, which is 42 times 11. So let me stop sharing my screen.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Do you want to go into breakout rooms to work on this one?
Can I go to the bathroom?
Mrs. Shevchuk, can you hear me?
Yeah, I didn't know if you were talking to me or them. Did you say, do they want to go into breakout rooms?
Or do you want us to do it in breakout rooms, number 5?
I mean, we'll probably do a lot of breakout rooms tomorrow. I would just maybe, so let's take a vote. Who wants to do number 5 using the bow tie method? Hold your hand up. 11, 12, 13. I think I counted 13 people. We have 25 participants. So it's just over half. So we'll do the bow tie method for 5, the area model for 6. But why don't we go ahead and try these 2 on your own? So you're going to try number 5 and 6, and then we'll come back and check them together. So just do 5 first. Rewrite the problem 42 times 11. Draw your work bar down the side. And see if you're able to follow through with the steps on your own without any guidance. Tanya, you okay? You got your paper? All right. Hey, Tyler, you should be working. If anyone gets stuck, just unmute yourself and kind of tell us what step you're at, and we'll help you walk you through it. If you finish early, maybe up above or below, try it with the area model and see if your answers match. That should make you feel super confident that your answer is correct. Okay, if Ms. Gabini, you want to go ahead and share your screen, and let's have Riley walk us through the first 2 steps.
All righty, Riley. So how did you set up your multiplication problem?
42. I did 42 times 11.
All right, so did you put 42 on the top?
Yeah.
I'm gonna work more down the side. All right, so you're gonna help us with our first 2 steps, Riley. So what did you do first?
First you do 1. First you do 1 times 2.
All right, so our 1 wrestles our 2. We have 1 times 2. And what does that equal?
2.
Right. And then what was your next step?
1 times 40.
Right. 1 times 40. And then what does that equal?
40.
40. All right. Orlando, I want you to help me with the rest of the problem. All right. So what's our next step?
10 times 2.
Right. Our 10 is going to wrestle with our 2.
You guys are
Mm,
doing a
10.
great job remembering that those numbers in the tens place aren't actually a 1 and a 4, and they are 10 and 40. Great job.
Right. All right. So we have 10 times 2, Orlando. What is that?
20.
And then what was your next step?
10 times 40.
Right. Our 10 wrestles our 40. So we have 10 times 40. And what does that equal?
400.
Right. So we can cross off our zeros. And then 1 times 4 is 4. All right. And then what's my next step, Orlando, to find my final answer?
You have to add them.
Right. You have to add them all up. So when I add up the ones,
2,
then we have the tens.
6,
And then in our hundreds, we have.
4.
So our final answer was?
462.
Right. Okay, give a thumbs up if you got the same answer when you did it on your own. Good, I'm seeing lots of thumbs up. All right, so does anyone have any questions on number 5? Or something that you got confused or stuck on? No? All right. And then Mrs. Chev, we said for number 6, we're gonna do an area model for this one.
Let's try the area model. And then we'll be all finished for today.
All righty. So work on number 6. We have 46 times 11, and this time use an area model. So we need to draw a rectangle and break it up into 4 pieces.
Why did the whole Zoom meeting go silent?
We're working on number 6, Soren.
Oh, did you call for me?
So use your area, you use an area model, so you have to draw a rectangle to do number 6.
Okay.
All right, it looks like most of us are finished. Give me a thumbs up if you finished up your problem. Okay, yeah, it looks like most of us are done. If you're not done, that's okay. You can just follow along as we go over it, all right? All right, so for number 6, I'm going to draw a rectangle. All right, so Seth, I want you to help me label the sides of my rectangle. So what did you label the sides of your rectangle, Seth?
40 and 6.
Right. We put 40 and 6 on this side. And then what did you put on the top?
10 and 1.
Right. 10 and 1. All right. So now, Bella, we need to find the area of each of our rectangles. Let's write out our multiplication problems for each. So I'm going to write them down here on the bottom, but I'll point to them so you know which one we're talking about. So first we'll do this one.
6 times 1.
Right. So down here, I'm going to write 6 times 1. For this one, Bella,
Times 10.
right, 6 times 10. Down here,
40 times 1.
40 times 1. And then this last one down here,
40 times 10.
40 times 10. Can you still see my 40 times 10? All right, there you go. All right. So Bella, why don't you just help me out with my multiplication? So 6 times 1 is?
6.
And then 6 times 10?
60.
4 times 1 is?
40.
And then 40 times 10?
400.
Right, 400. So then with all of these numbers, Bella, what do I need to do?
Add them together.
Right, we're gonna add them all together. So I'll write them up here on the side so that we can line them all up to make sure we do our adding right. So when I add up the ones, Bella,
6.
and then the tens,
10. So carry the 1.
make it the 1, and then in the hundreds.
500.
All right, so our final answer is 506. There we go. That's our final answer. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you also got that answer when you worked on it on your own. Good. All right, are there any questions? Or anywhere where you're confused?